This is also called cowboy camping because I'm not going to use the shelter tonight. So I've already put the neoprene braces on both knees because they are hurting a little bit. It bugs me to have to stop. So to give you the general context of the hike, this is northwestern Montana. You see Missoula, Great Falls, and here's Kalispell. This is the Bob Marshall Wilderness, and this hike takes place on the western edge, about in the middle, just south of Condon, and it's at a place called Holland Lake. So the plan for this trip is to begin here at the Owl Creek trailhead at Holland Lake and climb up to Upper Holland and then continue on up over Gordon Pass down the Gordon Creek trail, then take a side trip up here to Dr. Lake and Kessler Lake. Not sure which one I want to spend the first night at, but probably Dr. Lake, and then the next day climb up to Kessler Lake and check that out. So that would be the first night at Dr. Lake, and then on the second day check out Kessler, come down to Shaw Creek Cabin, then climb up here to Lena Lake, second night there, and then third night will be come on down to Pendant Cabin and Big Salmon Falls, and up this trail to the Necklace Lakes and down to Sapphire Lake, and probably spend the third night either at one of these Necklace Lakes or Sapphire Lake, and then come out on the last day back out to the trailhead. The trail starts out mostly level as it moves on around the edge of Holland Lake. There's the trailhead is actually about halfway down Holland Lake, and so you have to get to the end of the lake. It's kind of a nice shaded fir and larch and cedar grove, and it's a good way to warm up in the morning because I'm going to need to warm up because that big climb starts when you get to the end of the lake. This is one of the only trails I've ever been on that actually has traffic instructions, and you can see that it is a very popular trail from how pulverized the dirt is in the trail, not to mention remains of horse traffic. And the traffic instructions are that you are recommended to start from the trailhead by 9 a.m. heading uphill, and leave Upper Holland Lake, which is 6 miles from here, by about noon heading back down. And that's mainly for horse traffic, but it's also a good idea for the foot traffic to try to follow that same rule if you can. But it's not absolute, and no one's giving tickets if you're going the wrong direction at the wrong time. About an hour into the hike, and things are starting to open up a bit so that now you can get a really nice view of Holland Lake, which is just a beautiful gem right on the edge of the Bob Marshall. And you can see the Mission Mountains in the distance, which are really a wonderful place and don't get enough attention that they deserve. They're just as awesome as Glacier Park and even have grizzlies, but they hardly get visited at all. Holland Lake is pretty popular because it's right on one of the main routes to Glacier Park, and there's a really nice old lodge right down in that bay And part of what makes this trail up to Upper Holland so popular is that there's a lot of outfitters who just all they do is run tourists up to Holland Lake and back, that 6 miles. So I've reached the first trail junction. There's actually 2 trailheads at Holland Lake, one on the north and one on the south. The north end is more commonly used for day hikers, and it's a little more developed and a little more busy, which is why I prefer the south, which is a trailhead more devoted to the horse packers. Another reason that North End trailhead is very busy and popular is that there's a short day hiking trip that goes to Holland Falls, which is just a beautiful falls. It's only, I think, about 2 miles in, so well worth a little side trip if you are just traveling through the area. This is where the canyon starts to close in. Surrounded by salmon berries. Don't mind if I do. Those are good. And a beautiful waterfall. Truth to be told, there's so many waterfalls along this trip. They really should be called the Waterfall Trail. I'm just showing you a few of the more notable ones here. I'm about 4 miles in, and there's one last lingering glance of a little patch of Holland Lake and the Mission Mountains beyond. And here's the last one. This is just below the outlet from Upper Holland Lake. And here's Upper Holland Lake. And here's the other side of Upper Holland Lake. I have to confess, I love the infinity pool effect. I've been here probably, I think this is my 3rd time, and it's really one of my favorite places in the world. Much as I love Upper Holland and the beautiful waterfalls on the way up there. It is kind of a tame trail, and it feels a little bit like my backyard. So now that I'm moving up into Gordon Pass and leaving all the day hikers behind, feels like the adventure is just beginning. Well, I made it to Gordon Pass, and it's absolutely stunning. Peaks all around that are pretty impressive. That's back looking at Upper Holland Lake and the peak that's above that. Not too shabby. Here's what's left of the Bob Marshall Wilderness Boundary sign. Don't know what happened to that, but it looks like it's kindling now. You can just barely make out. Way down in that bowl is Lick Lake. And check out the awesome striations on these mountains. Just incredible. When I was here before, the snow was highlighting every one of those lines. Really made it stand out. I'm a little ways down from Gordon Pass now, and starting to get my first real view down into the Gordon Creek Valley and into the heart of the Bob. I stopped hiking just randomly and threw my pack down and sat down, and right in front of me, lo and behold, it's just full of huckleberries. So I think I know what I'm going to be doing for the next 20 minutes. These guys are really good. I'm thinking that past there might be where I'm going to be going tomorrow. And I think I'm about 15 minutes, maybe 20 away from that Shaw Creek cabin. And I should be going up in one of those drainages to Doctor and Kessler Lake. I just was coming around a corner and saw a great flapping of wings, just the shadow of it, and heard a thud. And sure enough, there is a ground squirrel, newly killed. And I think I hear the hawk crying for it, saying, "Hey, that's mine, don't touch it." There he is. Okay, so it's 5 o'clock and starting to get a little tired, but I've made it to the junction with Dr. and Kessler Lakes. I've reached the trail junction between Kessler Lake and Dr. Lake, and it's only about 6 o'clock and the sun is dipping behind that ridge, but don't let that fool you. There's still a good 3 hours of daylight. It's just that's how tall that ridge is. So should be there in another hour or so. That little grouse just scared the crap out of me. I came around a tight corner and he exploded out of the brush like they do. Probably protecting a nest, and it's probably a she. And here's Dr. Lake. I made it just a little after 7. It's pretty awesome. I'm going to say it was 15 miles and about 3,500 feet elevation gain. The guidebook said that it was 38, but that was actually to Kessler Lake, which is just over that ridge. Here's the broader view of Dr. Lake. My guidebook also said that the trail to Dr. Lake had been let go back to the woods, but I called the local Forest Service office and asked about it, and they said, "You're in luck. It was just cleared this year." So I'm kind of thrilled to be staying at this lake that probably not many people have been at for many years, unless they were willing to do some hardy bushwhacking to get up here, and it would have been rough. The trail was rough enough as it was. So this is where I've decided to set up camp tonight. Not exactly a stealth site, but almost, since nobody's been here for so long. And the lake is right over there. Here's my spot all set up. And I mentioned stealth camping before. That doesn't mean doing something illegal. Stealth just means sleeping somewhere probably nobody else has ever slept before or ever would again. So it's a leave no trace concept. And this is also called cowboy camping because I'm not going to use the shelter tonight. There's no chance of rain, and it would be kind of difficult to get the shelter set up in exactly that spot where I would need it. So I'm going to give that a shot and hope that works tonight. Well, good morning. I had a pretty good night's sleep, although to be honest, I never sleep really great the first night out in the woods. But the cowboy camping thing worked out good. I was happy about that. Just something really special about being able to look up and see the stars throughout the night. And it's kind of fun this morning to watch the birds flitting around in the trees straight up above me without getting out of bed. Just making up some coffee. I had some troubles with this canister. I've never had trouble with a canister before, but when I was screwing the stove on, gas was escaping like it was a bad seal. And I thought for a moment about heating it up with a lighter, but decided that's probably not a good idea. So I just used my hand to warm it up a bit, and it seems to be working now. So hopefully that will be okay, since this is the first day. First time I've had to use it on this 4-day trip. Well, I have a fairly light day today, only about 11 or 12 miles to go to Lena Lake with a side trip to Kessler Lake. And I wanted to mention that yesterday I said that I was going to see the Shaw Creek cabin at the junction to come off on this trail. When I looked a little closer at the map, I realized that wasn't right. It was actually another mile beyond that junction. But I will get to see Shaw Creek cabin today because it's on the way to Lena Lake. So there you go. Got the cozy ready. Get the oatmeal in there. A little bit of water. I haven't pulled out my spoon yet. The sun's just starting to come up over the high ridge and lighting up those peaks above Dr. Lake. It's one of my favorite things. Went down and got some water this morning and spotted a trout swimming around. So I might have to finally break out the fishing pole and give that a try. Having warm coffee today since I got the warm water. Just dump the instant coffee in there. It's pretty convenient to use the same pot, both to warm my water and as a mug for the coffee. For dinner last night, I ate cold. Just had a bagel with peanut butter and honey, and new thing I tried was Canadian bacon instead of bacon bits, and that worked out pretty good. Wasn't bad at all. It's just the Canadian bacon is a little bland compared to bacon, actual bacon. So probably go back to the bacon bits next time, although it did occur to me that they make this bacon jerky now, and I thought, you know, that probably would work pretty good too, so I might give that a try next time. It's always fun to experiment with new things. So physically feeling pretty good. Knees are a little sore, but actually that's why I am on this somewhat shorter trip. I'm thinking it's going to be about 40 miles. And a little shorter miles and easy bailout options if I decide that things aren't going good. But so far, everything's great. Well, I'm all packed up and ready to hit the trail. It's 10 o'clock, kind of a late start for me, but that's okay. This was supposed to be sort of an easygoing trip, and it's warm a bit already for 10 o'clock. It's supposed to be the hottest day today, hottest day of this trip. So hopefully the trail will be fairly shaded and not too much of a sweat, but headed to Kessler Lake. I can't say that word. I keep wanting to pronounce it differently. I think that's about a 1.5 mile detour. I'm not quite sure. It's not marked on the map, so we'll just have to see how long it takes to get there. And then on up to Lena Lake. This is Dr. Creek coming out of Dr. Lake, and there's about 3, I think, it might be 4, really problematic fords just because they're narrow. It's a narrow stream and there should be easy ways to rock hop or climb a log across it, but since there hasn't been much traffic on this road, on this trail, there actually are not good ways to get to the logs and rock hops. I did cross on that log last night, but it was a pretty nasty bushwhack around in there just to get to it. So I was able to keep my feet dry last night with all those crossings, but it took a lot of extra time and it wasn't really worth it. At least not this morning. I'm not going to bother with it. Just walk on through. I'm back at the junction with Kessler Lake Trail and got back here in 45 minutes instead of the hour that it took me last night to get up to Dr. Lake. That's what fresh knees and not bushwhacking at the fords will do for you. I think I picked the right time of year to do this trip. There was a day hiker and 2 pack trains that I ran into right around Upper Holland Lake, but as soon as I got past that, I haven't seen anybody since then. So this is the last Tuesday before, sorry, yesterday was the last Tuesday before Labor Day, and so today I think all of the local schools started, so that probably helped limit the traffic quite a bit. Okay, I understand now if you had to make a choice between maintaining the trail to Dr. Lake or Kessler Lake, I would definitely choose Kessler Lake. Dr. Lake was very cool, but this is jaw-dropping. That rock wall alone warrants a major wow. That's incredible. Beautiful spot. And look at the color of that water. One thing I've learned just in the short time that I've been making backpacking videos is that a person quickly runs out of superlatives to describe places. But I gotta say, this is one of the most beautiful I've ever seen. Kessler Lake also is littered with excellent campsites. There are several down closer to the lake. This is probably the best one because it is up off of the lake shore. So it would be a little bit warmer in the evening. Well, it was hard work to get up here. It was about 300 feet elevation gain over just a mile and a half, and most of that was really less than that, only about a mile of really steep trail. And as hard, as much as coming up a steep trail is hard work, going down can be really brutal on the knees. So I've already put the neoprene braces on both knees because they are hurting a little bit. And the other thing that I do is extend the trekking poles a little bit farther than normal and then grip them on the end like that and just use them to lever me down on that steep part of the trail. Looks like I have about 1,000 feet to go down to that Shaw cabin, and then it'll be about 2,000 feet climbing back up to Lena Lake. So I guess I got some work cut out for me. It's a beautiful day though. I ran into some confusion on the trail here. Wasn't quite sure whether I was supposed to continue in that direction or if that was actually just a really overgrown trail. And once you step past this log, you can see that there's that looks kind of eroded and overgrown, and this looks a bit more like the trail. So I decided to head off up that direction. However, that becomes a bushwhack pretty quickly. You can tell that a lot of people have made that mistake. Sometimes when you're on the trail and someone wants to leave a sign that this is not the right path, they'll leave rocks or sticks in the path, and that's how I interpreted that rock. But in fact, that rock was saying this is the direction. So I followed my advice from the video about how to find a lost trail. And tip number 2 is return to the place where the trail was the most clear. You were certain that you were on it. So I came back to that rock and decided the actual message was this is the direction. And sure enough, that is the way and the right trail to Kessler Lake. Well, I've made it back to the junction with the main trail, and I'm afraid I've decided to bail on the rest of this trip. My left knee isn't getting any better, and I've been experiencing some pain in my right calf. I think it's just like a micro muscle tear or something. It was going on yesterday, but I was hoping that the night's rest would let it heal up and I'd be okay today. Basically, my left knee hurts when I go downhill and my right calf hurts when I go uphill. I'm pretty good on the flat, but unfortunately there isn't much flat ground on this trip. Sorry, I know that denies both of us the glory of seeing the Shaw Creek cabin, but I'm definitely going to come back and do this trip again, partly because I just bugs me to have to stop, and even though I think it's probably the right decision because I want to heal up for another big trip that I have planned in about 3 weeks, but also I really want to come back and see the rest of those lakes. I think it's probably some beautiful territory. So tonight I'm just going to work my way back up over Gordon Pass and then spend the night at Upper Holland and limp out tomorrow morning. When I was coming down that pass, the Gordon Creek Trail yesterday, there's some pretty exposed places, and I was thinking, boy, I sure am glad I'm not climbing up this on a really hot day. So that's one unfortunate result of this decision, is that's exactly what I'm going to be doing now. It's about 85 degrees and going to be pretty exposed. So I've got lots of water and I'll just chunk away at it. One other thing I forgot to say, the name of my channel on YouTube is ShastaBubba Adventures, and there's a reason for that. My definition of adventure is there's no guarantee that it's going to turn out good. So sometimes things work out, sometimes they don't. That's just the way it goes, and if there was a guarantee, it wouldn't be adventure. Well, I'm back up on top of Gordon Pass and pretty thrilled to have made it here. That was one long hot slog climbing back up. But I'm in good shape now. I only have to work my way down to Upper Holland, and it's 5:30 now, so I should be there by 6:30. Well, I'm back at Upper Holland Lake and decided to set up the shelter tonight, and I'm set up in a pretty awesome spot. I kind of wonder if maybe my subconscious didn't create a leg injury just to give me an excuse to come back and spend the night here. It is absolutely beautiful, and I think that I'm the only person here. Well, dinner tonight is just a jazzed up ramen recipe. I've got kind of a mix here with Parmesan cheese and bacon bits. They seem to find their way into everything, right? And some other stuff, some little sprinkle of chipotle spice, and have some ramen noodles that are just cooking in there. And when that's done, I'll drain that, put the noodles in here, and then throw in this olive oil packet, and that works pretty good. Looks like the mileage for the day is only 12 miles and a little less than 2,000 feet elevation gain. I guess that's not too bad for being injured. The goal of this trip was to spend 3 nights at beautiful mountain lakes, and as it ended up, I've spent 2 nights at beautiful mountain lakes, so I'm only mildly disappointed about having to bail on this one. And that is just the way things go sometimes. Tomorrow I'll just have 6 miles, almost all downhill to the trailhead at Owl Creek, which is right beside Holland Lake. Shouldn't be too hard. Although I might piss off some packers because they'll be coming up the trail at that time, so I'll have to watch out for them. And I did figure out what was wrong with my canister this morning, and I know this might come as a shock, but I'm going to attribute it to operator error. This new stove, it's new to me, it's the MSR Pocket Rocket, and in order to, when you put it away, you have to turn the valve just a little bit on and then flip the bail around like that. And I forgot about that, so I just flipped it around and then screwed it on, and it was just a little bit on, so that's why the gas was escaping. So once I figured that out, works just fine. So problem solved. Well, good morning. Had kind of a rough night last night, tossing and turning. I think that my campsite was sloped about 10%. No, not even that much, just a little bit. But it was just enough that every time I rolled over, I scooted downhill a little bit. So that took a little adjusting, but it's a beautiful morning. And as I said, should be an easy out today, not too far to go, and it's all downhill. Breakfast this morning is just usual cold coffee, and my wife got this whey protein bar that she thought would be a little more filling than the usual stuff that I eat when I'm on a quick morning. So we'll give that a try. Even a bad day in the woods is still a great day. Well, I'm all packed up and ready to head out. Looks like it's going to be another beautiful day. And just 6 miles, as I said, down to the trailhead. So looking forward to it. And I'm feeling fine, so I don't think I'll have any difficulties with that. Just take it slow and use the poles a lot. Here's a few more of the beautiful waterfalls on this trail to Upper Holland Lake. First glimpse of Holland Lake and the Mission Mountains. Never get enough of that. Just taking a little break, not too far from the trailhead. As I'm working my way out of the wilderness, can't help but have second thoughts and wonder about whether I did the right thing to bail on this trip. Maybe I should have toughed it out and just kept going. And it occurred to me that whenever something really bad happens, we can't help looking back, and usually there's some moment of decision and we tell ourselves, if only I had done the other thing, or if only I had stopped at that red light instead of run it, maybe the bad thing wouldn't have happened. But we rarely look at it the other way around. You know, if a crisis is averted because of a good decision, we don't really notice that. Life just goes on. So maybe I'll try to log it in that category of crisis averted and feel good about making the right choice. I don't know. Curious what you guys think. Should a person push it or bail? Anyway, I'll be out soon.